So welcome to this second part of introducing PHP in this series. So if you watched the previous video, you would have noticed that we've gone through some basics in PHP, getting PHP to run on our website or get our website to use PHP and work. And we've introduced some of its features and its powers by removing our repetitive parts and automating our copyright date. So in this video, we are quickly going to program our contact form to be able to send messages. So how is that going to be done? So pay attention. This is going to be interesting. If we look very well in the previous video, we discovered some few functions in PHP. Notably, we learned the echo function, which is used to display something. Echo forward slash print, because we can also use print instead of echo, right? We also discovered that we have some functions called require, which allow us to bring one file into another file at a given location. So it can be require or include, right? Include. So along this, we learned that PHP code always runs in between this particular symbolic PHP, so, and then question mark greater than sign. So all PHP code must be in between this and that. But if the file contains only PHP code without any HTML or any other languages, this part can be optional, right? This part can be optional. Great. So that being said, let's move on again to our contact form and try to discover through that some of these features of the PHP language. So let's get started. Here we have our form. What do we do if you want this form to be able to send the content the user fills in to our email, right? What do we do? So first of all, we'll deal with the form, the opening tag. That form has a property that tells us where we have our PHP code that will be in charge of sending or forwarding the visitor's message to our email. So what is that code? So we call it the action attribute. The action attribute goes with the form tag always. So in the action attribute, where is the action located? The action of sending this particular message the user just filled, where is it located? That action that will be in charge of forwarding that message to our email. That's what we are going to do. So let's call it send underscore message .php. We have not created the file, but we specified the action. So when we fill the form, what happens? Let's say we fill with John Doe as the name, and then the email we say, okay, westboy, right, at gmail.com, and then we say, hi boss, I love your website, can we collaborate? Right? So I fill this message and then I send. What happens? So the form has been able to detect that send message.php as the action center. So it tries to do that and then adds some question mark. What happened? So first of all, we get not found error, which means the request resource, which is the send message.php file, was not found. So that's the first problem. Let's tackle that before we come to the question mark. So let's go ahead and create this page. So we go to our project, right click, new file, Control S to save, paste the name, send underscore message.php, make sure we are in our project folder, click save. Then this file is going to contain only PHP code so far, so we'll just open the PHP tag, right? We will not close. If we want, we can close, but let's keep it open to prove what we just said. So that's one thing. And let's do something. We'll just echo action center. So that's all this PHP file will do now. It will just display action center anytime we submit the form. So let's go back. I have the message there. Wonderful. We're using John Doe. Then the email is the westboy@gmail.com, and then we say send. Boom. So here we can see that our file actually is called properly. Now, what is this question mark for? So this question mark actually is there to append the form content and pass it, append the form content in the URL here, the URL, the address bar, you see the browser's address bar. It is supposed to append whatever the user field right in front of next to the question mark, and then by doing that, it says that I am passing this content, the user field, to this action center file. So that's what it's supposed to do, but it actually shows empty. Why is it showing empty? Yes, it is empty because we were supposed to add something to our fields, our input fields. We need to specify their names. So let's name them, because without their names, how do we distinguish where exactly the user filled their name, or where exactly they filled their email, or where exactly they filled their message? So we need to give them unique names. So the name for the name is name. Let's name it name. So the name, the field name for the user's name or the visitor's name is name. So you can name it anything you want, but let me keep it simple. It's name. Or let me make it visitor underscore name. So here too we give this one name, right? So we say visitor underscore email. So we see the difference, right? And then the next one, which is the text area, we also assign it a name, which is the visitor message. So visitor underscore message. And now we see the difference. So let's go back, give it a try, and see what happens this time around. Let me remove the zoom, return to 0, and then I'll fill the form again with John Doe. In fact, it is Westboy. So westboy@gmail.com. So the message is already there. I don't need to fill it. Then submit. What happened? Nothing still, because I did not refresh the page after editing. Let's do refresh it first. Great. Then I fill the form again, Westboy. So westboy@gmail.com, and then the message, like we were saying, hi, this is John, and then let's send it and see. Boom, it happened. So now not only it calls the action center, it appends the name of each input, and then equals to sign, and then the value the user actually inputted, if that exists. So the user actually entered in that field. So the field name, the input field name, the value the user entered, up to here, the input field name, and then the value the user entered. Wonderful. So that way of doing things, that way of sending things, is called get method. So PHP is using a technique of sending called the get technique, so, or a get method, right? A get method. So sending, so through first method, the get method. So the get method passes the value to be sent to the server on the URL. So we make in bracket URL. So it sends it through the URL. We have another method which is called the post method. In fact, we have quite some few methods PHP uses to do that. Not only have post, we also have get. So we said get already. We have put. We have patch, we have delete, and so on. But we are mostly interested in these first two. So I am mentioning this for you to be aware. But the most important thing we care about now is these first two. But the one we are even going to use is this post, only the post. So we've seen how get works. In fact, we did not even specify anywhere that we want to use get. How come? Simply because HTML will fall back on the default. I mean, the HTML form will always fall back on the get method by default. But we can be specific and indicate that we want the method, as given method, to be used by using the method attribute. So by specifying that, you write the name of the method you want. In our case, we are using get. So if we change it into post, then you will see what happens. So let me go back, refresh, fill something, west boy at gmail.com, and we say simply hi, and we send. What happened this time around? Not only we only call the action center, and then nothing happens. There's no action. And you can see if you are reload now, it is asking me this time, are you sure you want to resubmit the form? So it means it was really submitted in the first place. If we do continue, it will resubmit, and then call the sending the action center, which is the send message.php, and the send message.php in turn will now be evaluated, actioned, put into action, and then displays action center. So that's one of the main differences between the get method and then the post method. So in some occasions it's better to use get, and some other occasions it's better to use get. So the easiest way to distinguish how you want to go about it is to see that the get method tends to display the information the user is filling on the browser. If you don't want them to feel kind of unsafe, or they feel some weird thing, you can just use post so that the content does not show in the address bar. Otherwise, they are all great. It all works fine. So the next thing is also how the send action, sending the action center actually handles that information. So since it is a PHP file, it means it is being sent to the PHP engine. So once the PHP engine grabs this file, it kind of creates some global containers to contain the form values the user filled. So it creates, let's use this to illustrate that. So it creates some kind of boxes, right? It creates some kind of boxes or containers, right, to contain what the user has filled in. So let's say in our case we have the name, so it will place the name inside, right? Then it will place the email inside this one, and then it will place the message inside this one. So these containers, in technical term, they are called variables. They are called variables or variables, right? Variables. So it's like the name sounds, things that can change, because if we put the name in, we can change that name and put a new name inside, so we can change the content. But it allows us basically to be able to have it a container, and anytime we call this on container, we know we are using the name. If we use this container, we are using the message. If we use this container, we are using the email. So that makes it easy. So how do we see these containers? So we depending on the method you use, in our case right now we use the post method, so PHP will create a global container, so and then name it post, and that global container's name is $_ POST, post, in capital letters. So make the P in post in capital letters is a global container, or simply a global variable. So global variables. So depending on the type, the method you used, either you use get, you have get global variable. If you use post, you will have PHP will generate global post variable. Great. So in our case we used post, so PHP will generate that global variable. So before we go ahead and grab this content the user filled in, I would like us to see what is inside that variable right now. So to see that, we use a special function called VDump VDump function. So the VDump function kind of displays whatever is inside a given variable, VDump global. So let's go ahead and see that. So now if we refresh our form, it will ask us to resubmit, because I don't want to go back and fill the form again. I'm just resubmitting the old content. Yes, I am lazy on that. So continue, and boom, something happens. So the same things the get method was doing by passing the field names into a appended string or query string on the URL, by adding the field name, then the field value, field name, field value, field name, and field value. The post method is doing the same thing, but this time around it is arranging it into what we call a set. I think mathematically, forgive me the example if you are not into mathematics, but in mathematics this is called a set, right? Or if you are from the French word, it's called ensemble. Ensemble. So an example of set is the set of all the integers. Let's say the set of all the integers is, you see that curly brace, all the numbers starting from minus infinite to -1 to 0 to 1 to infinite at the right side. So all the integers, right? Oh, right, if I'm good. So that's mathematics. So basically the idea is it's a set which contains, so in let's say a set of all positive numbers, so 1 2 3 4 5 6, so on, that's a set. So in our case, PHP puts it in a set, and that set is called in PHP arrays. So in PHP, these sets are called arrays. So as an array, we can be able to pinpoint and say, okay, inside this array, give me the visitor's name, and then it will give it to you. Or inside this array, give me the visitor's email, and then it will give you. And that's one good way we can do. So how do we access it? In our case, in mathematics, we use curly brace, but here we use square brackets. So, and we specify now the field name, which in our case, so visitor name. If we do that visitor name, then we are trying to target the visitor name. So let's reload and see. It displays us only the visitor name. So by using this method, we can kind of also create our own personal variables. So we don't have to use global variables anymore, but we can use our own variable, right? We can use our own variables. So to create a variable, basically in PHP, we always start with the $sign and then you give it a name. So you could see here, PHP just gave these names to these variables. So in our case, we would like our variables to kind of represent what they contain. So in our case, we have our visitor's email, visitor's name. So let's create a variable, $sign. We name it visitor name. We will not use underscore. We don't care. So, but if you want, you can still use underscore. There's nothing wrong. So you can name it as you wish. You can even put numbers inside. And then what do we want to put inside? So you use the equals to sign to say what you want to put inside. We want to put the value of this set at this location. So at this location in the global variable set, we want to bring the name, the visitor's name. So we do the same thing. You see, I add semicolon to mark the end of this statement. So visitor's email as well, and we put visitor's email here. Then the visitor's message in this variable, visitor's message. So this being said, we have collected all the variables from all the content from the user. So if we do VDump again, so we do VDump, we put in the name. We can align as many variables we want inside VDump to ask it to dump all these variables one by one. So if we do that, separating with comma, and then we reload again, we resubmit the form, you see it's giving us that yes, we have a string Westboy, we have a string westboy@gmail.com, and we have a string hi. So now through our action center, which is the send message.php file, we can now grab the user's input. Wonderful. So once that's done, what could we do? The next thing could be, let's check if the user, the visitor's input is not empty, because we don't want them to send us empty messages, right? So on this process, we will not go too deep. We will make it simple. So this is what I want us to do. First of all, we will use what we call a conditional checking. We check if a condition is satisfied. How do we check if a condition is satisfied? So let me add name here for variable. So if we want to check if a condition is satisfied, so conditions, so in normal language we would say, oh, if you are happy, clap your hands. If you are happy, clap your hands. So if you are happy, if you are happy, let me make it this way, then clap your hands, then clap, right? So if you are happy, then clap. So the same thing we do in PHP. You use the if code, but the you are happy is the condition. You put it in bracket. The then, to say then, we use curly brace like this. So it can be placed right here. And then after then, what happens, and when that happens, finish. Let me use code. Let me use color coded. So we open the curly brace like this. After the then, to say then we close the curly brace after whatever is to be said is said. So if you are happy, curly brace, so the curly brace replaces this guy. So in PHP we will not use this guy, right? But we use curly brace to say then do this, and then at the end we stop it by saying this. So in our case, it is going to look like, so what condition we want to know, if this thing is not empty, if the variable containing the visitor's email is not empty. So if user variable not equals to empty, to say empty, we put empty quotes like this, and then we are good. Then if it is not empty, we do this. But we could also say if it is empty. So if we say equals to, look at the difference between these two equals to. This one is saying take the value here and put it inside here. This one is saying are these two values the same? The value at the left and the value at the right, are they the same? If yes, then there's a problem. So if this value is equals to empty, so if the value in the visitor name is equivalent to the value, the empty value here, then it means the user did not fill the form or that particular field. So what do we do then? Where we had clap, we don't want to clap this user, but we want to rather alert them and say, "Ooh, no, you must provide your name," and that is it. And now we say we don't want the code to continue running, die here, and we use the function die to say stop running. Once that happens, do not go forward again. We are not interested in executing the rest of the code. We die here. So that's it. But instead of doing this, we also have a function in PHP which actually is the empty function. So instead of this, we can say if altogether empty, in bracket, what do we want to check if it is empty? So if empty, the visitor name, in our case we are going to do now email, you must provide your email, right? So we do the same thing. Let me keep this so that you see that they kind of look like the same. Then we do the same thing for the visitor's message. So if empty visitor message, then you must provide a message, and we are good. So that being said, we've done our checking of making sure that the visitor always provides the form content before submitting. So if I refresh again, I should have everything working fine. So we got at the blank page. Let's see what happened. So in normal situation, the forms are not empty, so we could not get any error. And since after handling the errors, we did not say anything, therefore we get a blank page. That makes sense. So let's try jumping some fields. So this time I'll fill the form again. I'll just leave it empty. I'll leave the form empty and submit it. What do we see? The first error, you must provide your name. So we can go back and fill the name John and submit. You must provide your email. Then we can go back, so you can see it clears this. This is another challenge that can be addressed in a different video. So for now, let's focus. So once that's done, we are sure it is set. Now we can send the message. So to send the message in PHP, you use a particular function called mail. So send the message. So PHP has a function called mail. That function, you can see it takes three main parameters. The to which mail are you sending it? So in that case, we are going to say we'll create a variable here. We'll call so we are going to call this variable my email. So that's you, the owner of the portfolio, and your email we are going to say Lex Luthor at gmail.com. Right, so that's the portfolio's owner's email. So we are going to send a message to this email. So we'll rather name it to my email. So great, to my email. So in this case, if you look at the prototype of this function, let me even write it in comment here. And then so we are going to, the to value is going to be to my email. The subject, we need to declare a subject. So subject, since we did not ask the user to enter the subject, so we can hard code the subject, contact message from website, right? So this is where we are going to provide that subject. So we change this into variable, then the message in our case is visitor message, and that's it. So by doing so, PHP will now try to send this message from the server where your website is to the user, to your email server, and then the mail server will deliver it to your inbox, and that's it. So this is completely basic ways of sending emails using PHP. In normal situation, you would do much more check-ins, security check-ins, to make sure that people are not trying to hack you through it. You need to pass, visitor is small v, so you have to pass the message to make sure you eliminate all sorts of HTML code that could be there to have malicious code and so on. So but this is just to show you the basic principle. So once that's done, so say send display confirmation message. So now we can now say echo message sent successfully, right? So we can do that, and then let's give it a try again. So West boy is sending message from his email westboy@gmail.com, and he's saying, hi, I love your website, could you build one for me? Send message. What do we have? We have confirmation, and I just get something popping up at the right that says view the message. And when I view the message, and you can see it is sent to the subject and then the message itself. And this is very important. So one, our sender, so the send message.php file was able to get the file, handle the errors, and we passed through the errors, and then the email was forwarded through the mail function. And then my logon, since I'm not on the server already, I'm not on the production server, I'm still on my local server. So Laragon has that capability of handling local emails to simulate, because this function does not work on local environment, it only works on production servers. So once you host your website, so Laragon has that capability of capturing this email, the mail function messages, and then simulating the sending of the message, so that you can have a clear view of how your message is going to look like to your once it is delivered to your address. And this is a great example of how it goes and it looks like. So this marks the end of this tutorial, and I hope by now you've been able to pick up a lot about PHP. So I'm going to make these resources available, so if you want, you can get them. So wherever I put them, I will definitely mark it in the description of these videos. I hope you are enjoying this. Kindly leave your comments. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask, and also share these videos to your friends and families who would like to know this, and put it on your WhatsApp groups, put it in your Facebook groups, and share it, your WhatsApp statuses and so on. We would really appreciate that as a big support. Thank you, and see you in the next episode.